Lately, I've been noticing something simple but hard to ignore. Everything in life seems to come down to two things: awareness and acceptance. And today, I want to break down what I mean by that. I want to give you a framework for going through life, for overcoming resistance, and for also gaining more awareness and allowing yourself to accept things more. So, when you look at life, generally events happen, and we have two options. We either accept the event and it passes on, life goes on, and the next moment comes in, or we resist. And resist is generally some form of narrative of, I didn't want it to be that way. I wanted it to be differently. And if you look at your life and you look at the things that annoy you, that cause emotions, that cause frustrations, there's some form of resistance. Resistant in terms of you want things to be different to what they are. And this is kind of the nature of resistance. And this is why when you look at life and you look at the problems you have, they generally aren't problems. They're just a form of resistance. And as I was kind of reflecting on this today, I was like, there's nothing more important than this. And I really want to go deep today and really share some frameworks for how to understand this in a good way, but also to move into more awareness and into more acceptance. Because if we're aware of what's going on and we're accepting of events that happen, there's almost nothing that can bother us. So this got me thinking that the two goals of your inner work are to gain awareness and learn to accept more. And that's the way to get past resistance. And I wanted to create something visual, and I was thinking of ways to do that. And I've came up with four quadrants of experience, which I want to share with you today. So I'll pop that on the screen and I'll go through what each of them are and some examples of how they all look. So if you look at the bottom left one, this is unaware and resist. And I've got equals prison. So this is fighting life without seeing it. So this is results equals blind spots, suffering, victim mindset. All right, so you could imagine here someone unaware of their patterns. They're acting on impulse. Let's say someone comes back from work and they shout at their partner or shout at their kids, and they think their kids or their partner is the cause of the problem. They don't realize it's them coming in a certain state and they're basically causing all the issues. But they don't have awareness and they don't have acceptance. So they're resisting the moment, they're resisting life, and they're also unaware. All right, so this is you're trapped in a loop, and generally it's victim mindset, blaming life, blaming others, and this is the ultimate lowest state you can be. If we move up to the top left corner, we have aware but resist. All right, this is what I call the tension zone. So here, you see the problem, but you can't let it go. Result, stress, rumination, inner conflict. So many examples here. You can think of, imagine procrastinating on a work project. You know you're procrastinating. You see yourself scrolling your phone, scrolling social media, but you can't get yourself to do the thing. You're facing resistance and you can't overcome it. The awareness is there, but you don't have the acceptance or the way to move past that resistance. Maybe you're judging yourself, saying, I should be doing better by now. Why can't I get myself motivated? Some sort of inner dialogue, which is clashing with the moment and stopping you from just doing what's in front of you. All right, then we move down to the bottom right, the unaware and accept. This equals flow by default. So life carries you unconsciously, results you ease in the moment, but unsustainable. So this is one where you're doing things right. You're in the flow of events. This could be playing sports. It could be with friends. It could be listening to music. But you haven't really got overly much awareness. You're not exactly taking in everything with full consciousness, but you're doing pretty well. You're accepting things. Life's unfolding quickly. Every new event comes and goes. All right, so this state is pretty good, but the only downside is you don't have full control. Or you don't know what you're doing. You're just there accepting. It's almost like that naive, but you're in a good state. And flow states are often very addictive. People do extreme sports because they get to this kind of peaceful, in harmony with life moments, but they don't know how to do it because there's no conscious awareness. So they do extreme stuff to get themselves into this state. All right, then finally we have the top one, the top right. We have aware and accept, and this equals freedom. So here you see clearly and surrender to reality. Result, peace, flow, presence, and clarity. All right, so an example here for myself was when I went on that Vipassana retreat, my silent retreat, and I was in a lot of pain, a lot of physical sensations I was experiencing, and I was resisting them. I was trying to muscle up and push through hour after hour. And there was one session where my whole body was just tingling with sensations. The pain was getting worse and worse. Shooting pains were going all through my back, down my spine. And I was like, wow, this is so intense. And I was fighting it. And the more I was fighting it, the more I was resisting it, and the more it was getting intense. And then I got to a point where I just couldn't take it anymore, and I just released it. I just stopped fighting it, let it go, and just let all the pain overtake my body. And very quickly, this pain got very intense. The sensations really magnified, but then it passed. And I remember just witnessing the sensations in my body and going, it's just sensations. I fully accepted everything I was experiencing in that exact moment. Now there's no more pain, no more suffering. The sensations were still there to some degree, but they faded. And a lot of the pain I was experiencing was caused by resistance. So if we look at life through those angles, we can quickly ask ourselves, where am I accepting and where am I resisting? So the pattern I keep saying over and over again is that life is presenting us with events. Some small ones, some big ones, some painful ones, some frustrating ones. And we have two options. We either accept that and let the event pass by and we're on to the next moment, because there's always a moment unfolding and the next one ready. Or we resist. And we resist, we cling, we get frustrated, we feel stuck on some level because we're not going with the event. And if we learn to think of life that simply, we can look at all of our problems through the lens of what am I resisting? All right. And then when we start to work on ourselves, and we look at the inner work we need to do, it's all about going from resistance to acceptance. It really is that simple. Any problem you're having is caused by some form of resistance. All right. So I wanted to create a visual diagram, how I was seeing this in my mind. ChatGPT helped me refine this. And yeah, I really think this could be useful. So I'm going to put it on the screen and we'll go through it together in terms of how I see the journey from resistance to acceptance. So here on the left, we have an event happens. Any event is unfolding, and then we have some level of awareness, all right? We're either aware of it or unaware of it. A lot of the time, we've got some form of conscious awareness that's happening, so we'll just take that somewhat for granted that there's some level of awareness. And then as it's coming through, imagine this kind of red block is coming through. If it doesn't hit resistance, it goes all the way through to acceptance, and out the other side is freedom, all right? So an event happens, it passes all the way through. You can imagine emotion passing through your body. You can imagine a thought pattern passing through your mind. You can mention an event that's just happened and the event's come and gone. Whatever way you want to think about it, the event comes and the event goes if we don't block it. All right? That's very key to know. So that it'll just go through this bottom line. However, the areas we struggle, we hit a resistance block. So imagine you've hit a blockage and now you're not letting that event go through. You're not accepting it. All right? So what happens here, if we look at what can happen, this is where you need all the tools, all right? So if you look at mindset work, inner work, it's all just undoing resistance. You've got reframing, you've got perspective shifting, you've got breath work, you've got meditation, you've got letting go. Why are we doing all this work? You don't need to do any of that work if you've already accepted it, all right? You don't need to work on the things you've accepted, but we do need to work on all the things we resist. So if you look at your inner work, it's all about removing blockages. It's all about getting rid of the things you resist. And once you're able to do that, you're able to go back to acceptance. You're able to come out of that resistance and accept what has happened. And then you're back in the current moment. Life unfolds and grants you another moment to either resist or accept. And life's constantly giving you a moment. And most of them, if you look at yourself, most of the moments, maybe 90%, maybe 95% of moments, you're fine with. The sun comes up in the morning, sun goes down, it rains. A lot of events happen in your day that are completely fine with you. But some are not. So you've got to identify the ones you're resisting and find ways to remove those. So how do we do this in a practical way? What is the path forward? How do we get past these blockages and start to accept things more and gain more awareness along the way? So here's the practice. The first step is to increase awareness. You need to catch the story that says this shouldn't be happening. This isn't fair. All right, you really need to watch what I would call the trigger moments, the triggering events that causes those thought patterns to unravel. All right, so catch yourself and go, what am I resisting? Maybe you've got to backtrack from the emotion itself. Maybe you're feeling frustrated and you go, oh, I've noticed I'm frustrated. What could I possibly be resisting here? All right, what am I thinking is unfair? What is not going the way I would like it to go? And then the second step is to practice acceptance or moving towards acceptance. And this is letting go of control and allowing the event to be as it is. This is often where you'll use tools like reframing. You will reframe something like, this is unfair to this is just life unfolding. This is just happening. There's no victim mindset. You create a free frame that makes things feel more acceptable. Or you will meditate, or you will journal, or you will use a different perspective tool to allow yourself to zoom out and see the bigger picture. All of these tools, they do the same thing. They're trying to get you to let go of the personalization, to let go of resisting, and to accept. And every good reframe, every good perspective skill is getting you to that objective, to accept better. All right, it's really that simple. So every time you're experiencing something, you ask yourself, what am I resisting? And how do I get to more towards accepting? And if you can't get accepting directly, what tool can you use? Will meditation work? Will journaling work? Will perspective skills work? Will a reframe for the situation work? All right, and then finally repeat over and over. Every problem, every time it comes up, what am I resisting? What do I need to let go of? And you need to find what works for your personality. All right, so for some people, breath work, just being very kind to themselves, going, okay, I release, I relax, it works very well. Other people need to do more logical work, more logical actual reframing. Myself, I've definitely had to go down more the cognitive route of reframing things and looking the logic behind the thought patterns I had, breaking them down and going, that actually isn't true. There's nothing to feel the victim about here. I can let this go because I don't believe it. Works better for me. So you've got to find what works for you, your personality, your temperament. So it can really be that simple. Life doesn't have to have resistance. You can just be present in the moment. And your work is to spot where you are resistant. So ask yourself, what am I resisting right now? Unpack it. What's the story that I'm believing that is making me resist this? And what would it look like to accept this and to let go? And you play that game all day long, every day, with everything that comes your way, you get very good at it. And you start to realize the one or two things that are still hard to release, that are still hard to accept, and that's your work.